The detector spoke before I saw anything. Not a scream yet. Just a low, pulsing vibration traveling up my arm, muffled by seawater and silence. Around me, the ocean floor lay undisturbed, a desert of sand and shadow rolling endlessly beneath the Atlantic swell. Above, sunlight fractured into thin, wavering blades that barely reached this depth. This was where the charts ended. Somewhere below, lost for centuries, lay the remains of San Miguel, a Spanish treasure ship of the great imperial fleets that once crossed oceans heavy with gold, silver, and empire. A ship that never reached home. A ship the sea swallowed without witnesses. Most wrecks announced themselves with timbers or cannon. San Miguel did not. It hid. I steadied my breathing and swept the detector again. Slow and deliberate. The tone deep and wide, layered, unmistakable. Not iron debris, not fishing junk. This was mass. People imagined treasure ships as floating vaults. In truth, they were moving economies. San Miguel had sailed as part of Spain's treasure system cargo gathered from colonial ports, bound for royal coffers and European wars. Coins, raw bullion, jewelry meant to be melted down and reforged. If the ship had gone down intact, the seabed here would remember. I descended. The sand shifted beneath my fins as I reached the bottom. I used my hands instead of tools, brushing gently. The seabed resisted at first, then softened, releasing a faint cloud of silt that drifted away on the current. Wood emerged, blackened, fragile, ancient, a beam, then another. The outline of a hull began to take shape, collapsed inward, flattened by time and pressure. The ship had not exploded on impact. It had settled, slowly, quietly. That was dangerous. Quiet wrecks preserve secrets. The detector surged again. I followed the signal toward the shadow of the collapsed stern. My fingers struck ceramic. A jar. Spanish storage jars, olive oil, amphorae, food containers, and sometimes something else. I tapped it gently with my tool. Crack, the jar split. Gold rolled out into the sand. Coins, dozens of them, fused in places by corrosion, glowing dully beneath centuries of salt. Spanish escudoshans struck, irregular, thick. Each one had been minted by hammering a heated gold blank between dies. No two were identical. I picked one up and held it close, using the magnifying lens built into my mask. The imprint was faint, but visible. A cross, worn smooth by time. This wasn't pocket money, this was royal tax. I secured several coins into my recovery pouch and moved on. The wreck opened like a wound. I swam deeper into what had once been the cargo hold. Broken timbers formed ribs around me. The detector's tone sharpened stronger now, overlapping signals pulling in different directions. San Miguel had gone down loaded. I uncovered a wooden chest crushed by the collapse above it. The iron bands remained, twisted and corroded. The lock had failed long ago. I pried it open. Inside, sediment collapsed inward and then color appeared. Jewelry. Gold chains knotted together. Rings with crude but powerful settings. A pendant shaped like a cross, its surface engraved with simple lines. These pieces were not delicate court jewelry. They were colonial crafted in the New World by Spanish and indigenous goldsmiths. The techniques varied. Some rings had been cast in simple molds, then finished by hand. Others showed hammering and filing. The gold was high purity, soft, warm in color, perfect for melting later. Spain didn't ship finished art, it shipped raw power. I examined one ring through the magnifier. Tool marks were visible, human, imperfect, rushed. This had been made to be paid, not admired. I secured the pieces and continued. A larger signal pulled me toward the port side. I brushed sand away and uncovered a heavy object half buried, a bronze cannon. Spanish naval artillery cast in single pieces using clay molds, reinforced with decorative rings. The cannon had sunk into the sand nose first, marking the ship's final descent. Near it, the detector screamed. I dug. Another chest. This one had survived better, sealed by sediment. I pried it open slowly. Silver flooded the light. Plates, goblets, bars. Some pieces bore stamped marks, royal insignia, weight marks, workshop symbols. These were not personal belongings. They were state assets, tracked and counted. I lifted a silver goblet and rotated it slowly. It had been raised from a single sheet, then chased from the inside to create relief decoration. This technique required precision. Too much pressure would tear the metal. A master's work. I secured it carefully. As I turned, something moved at the edge of my vision. A slender shape glided along the sand. A sea snake, its body curved effortlessly, weaving between wreckage and shadow before disappearing beneath a timber. My pulse jumped. Even here, guardians remained. The detector pulsed again deep, insistent. The second descent felt different. The sea was calmer, but the wreck was not. I followed the same descent line, the water darkening as the outline of San Miguel reappeared beneath me. From above, the collapsed hull looked less like a ship now and more like a buried palace, sealed by timber, cannon, and centuries of sand. I switched on the metal detector. It did not hesitate this time. A deep, continuous tone vibrated through my arms, steady, confident. This wasn't scattered cargo. This was a concentrated core. I kicked gently toward the underside of the hull, where broken ribs formed an arch over a shadowed cavity. Sand had piled here, protected from currents. Anything buried below would be untouched. I used my hands, not tools. Sand billowed slowly as I brushed it aside, revealing stacked planks, collapsed deck beams. I worked carefully, removing sediment grain by grain. The detector tone grew stronger with every movement. Then my fingers struck metal. Not iron, gold. I cleared the sand and exposed a sealed wooden chest, wedged beneath a beam. The wood had darkened but survived, pressed tight by the wreck above it. I pried it open. The lid gave way. Inside, gold coins lay packed together, stacked edge to edge like bricks. Spanish escudos, heavy, thick, unmistakable. These were not mixed with debris. They had been stored deliberately, separated from the rest of the cargo. I picked one up and examined it through the magnifier in my mask. The strike was crude, the edges uneven, but the gold was rich and pure. Each coin had been weighed by hand, minted fast to fund war. This was treasury gold. I placed several into my recovery pouch and continued. The detector suddenly spiked sharper, louder, drawing me deeper under the hull. I squeezed through a narrow opening, careful not to disturb the structure. Inside was a confined space, almost room-like, a hidden compartment, a palace chamber beneath the sea. I swept the detector across the floor. Multiple signals overlapped, close, layered, dense. I began clearing sand and uncovered ceramic jars, sealed and intact. I struck the first one gently. It shattered. Gold jewelry spilled out: chains, pendants, rings. One pendant bore a simple cross, cast thick and solid. Another showed floral motifs, likely influenced by indigenous craftsmanship from the colonies. I examined a ring closely. It had been cast in a rough mold, then refined by filing and polishing. Tool marks were still visible. This was gold made to move fast from hand to hand, port to port. Power in transit. I smashed open another jar. Silver followed bars and plates, stamped with weight marks and royal symbols. These were accounting pieces, not personal items. Spain's empire ran on ledgers as much as swords. I hovered there for a moment, surrounded by drifting silt and gleaming metal. Then something moved. A long, slender shape slid across the sand between the jars. A sea snake. It moved slowly, unbothered, weaving through gold and shadow before vanishing beneath a beam. My breath caught in my regulator. Even here, the wreck had a guardian. The detector pulsed again directly beneath me. I cleared more sand and uncovered a second chest, smaller but heavier. I opened it. Inside were gold ingots, rectangular, plain, brutally simple. Each ingot bore stamped markings: weight, origin, approval marks. No beauty, no symbolism, just value. I lifted one slightly. It barely moved. This was the heart of San Miguel's cargo, not decoration, not tribute, but state wealth, meant to be melted, recast, and turned into armies. As I secured the final items, a realization settled in. This space was not random, it was engineered. The most valuable cargo had been stored low and central, protected by the ship's structure itself. When San Miguel went down, the sea sealed this chamber like a vault. This was the palace beneath the deck. As my air supply ticked down, I made one final sweep. The detector gave a faint signal, deeper still under layers I couldn't reach today. Something remained, untouched. As I ascended, the wreck faded once more into darkness, reclaiming its silence. San Miguel had not given up its greatest secret yet, and whatever still lies beneath that final layer of sand was meant to stay hidden from the surface world. I followed it toward the bow, where the hull had collapsed into a narrow corridor of debris. I squeezed through, careful not to disturb the structure. Inside, the signal peaked. I brushed away sand and uncovered a cluster of gold ingots. Plain, rectangular, heavy. These were not decorative. They were stamped with weight marks, standardized bars cast in molds, meant for accounting, not beauty. Gold reduced to numbers. I lifted one slightly. It barely moved. This was why San Miguel mattered. This was not a romantic hoard. This was an empire's bloodstream. As I worked, the pattern became clear. The cargo had not scattered far. The ship had sunk quickly, intact enough to trap much of its wealth. Storm, navigation error, or structural failure, whatever claimed San Miguel, it did so without warning. I smashed open another jar. More coins spilled out, mingled with coral growth and shell fragments. Time had tried to claim them. It failed. I paused, hovering in the water, surrounded by fragments of Spain's past. Something felt wrong. No personal effects, no weapons cache, no officer's chest. Spanish captains traveled with documents, manifests, letters, orders. None were here. That meant one thing. San Miguel's most important cargo was not gold. It was information. And if those chests were missing, then either they were recovered centuries ago or they lay buried deeper, sealed beneath the wreck itself. I made one last sweep before ascending. The detector gave a faint response beneath a collapsed section of hull, too deep, too unstable to investigate today. But it was there, waiting. As I rose toward the surface, the wreck faded back into shadow, reclaimed once more by sand and silence. San Miguel had not been emptied. It had been paused. In the next dive, we follow that signal beneath the hull toward a sealed compartment that may contain the ship's manifest, royal correspondence, and the last unclaimed core of the treasure. Some historians believe San Miguel carried only bullion. Others believe it carried something far more valuable, records that could rewrite the story of Spain's treasure fleets. The sea doesn't destroy history, it hides it, like if you want to descend again. Subscribe to follow the next dive. Comment below, was San Miguel lost by accident or deliberately erased? Because the greatest secret of this ship may still be locked beneath the sand.